All right, so let's talk about Pythagoras. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. That triangle guy from math class, right? Well, forget that for a second. Because the real Pythagoras was so much more. He was a mystic, a philosopher, and he led this secretive group of followers who were convinced they'd found the source code of the entire universe. And that really gets to the heart of his big idea. Just think about it for a second. What if everything, absolutely everything, from the music you hear to the stars in the sky, could be explained by a single hidden language, a universal code? For Pythagoras, this wasn't just some fun what-if scenario. He believed it was the fundamental truth of reality. And here it is. This is the key that unlocks his entire worldview. All things are number. Now, when you first hear that, you might think, okay, sure, numbers can describe things. But that's not what he meant. He was saying something way more radical. He believed that numbers are the essence of things, that the universe isn't just described by math, it is math. So here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll dig into that core idea. All things are number. Then we'll see where he found his proof in music and triangles. After that, we'll see how he scaled it up to the entire cosmos and even the human soul. And finally, we'll track how his ideas have echoed through history. Let's get into it. Okay, section 1, all things are number. And you really have to understand, for Pythagoras and his followers, this was not a metaphor. They genuinely believed that numbers were the real physical building blocks of the universe, the things that give it shape and order. So what does that actually mean? Well, it means that if you want to truly understand anything, a planet, a person, a piece of music, you have to understand its underlying number. Math wasn't just a tool you used to, do your taxes. For Pythagoras, it was the deep, fundamental principle that explained why things are the way they are. It's the why of the universe. And a huge part of this was seeing the world as a series of dualities, or opposites. Things like limited and unlimited, odd and even, light and dark. For the Pythagoreans, the universe wasn't just one or the other. It was the beautiful harmony that emerges when these opposites come together in a perfect, balanced relationship. A relationship governed by, you guessed it, number. And this right here, this was the ultimate symbol for them, the tetractys. It's basically a pyramid of 10 dots, made from adding 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. 10 was the perfect number for them, and this symbol was sacred. I mean, truly sacred. They believed this simple geometric shape held the blueprint for the entire universe. Okay, that's all a pretty wild idea, right? So you have to be asking, where's the proof? How did he know? Well, let's get into section 2, because Pythagoras believed he found solid physical evidence in two places you might not expect to be related: music and geometry. This discovery was an absolute game changer. He figured out that the sounds that we find pleasant, musical harmonies, aren't an accident. They're created by simple whole number ratios. An octave, that's a 2-to-1 ratio. A perfect fifth, that's a 3-to-2 ratio. This was it. This was hard proof that the physical world, the vibrations in the air, was governed by the beautiful logic of numbers. There is geometry in the humming of the strings. I love that quote. It's the perfect bridge, because that same harmony he heard in music, he started to see in the quiet, elegant world of geometry. And of course, here's the big one, the Pythagorean theorem. But you've got to see this through his eyes. This wasn't just a handy formula for your homework. It was another stunning piece of evidence. It showed a perfect, eternal, unchanging relationship between the sides of a right triangle. It was more proof that the universe was built on a foundation of order and mathematical harmony. All right, so he found the code in music and in shapes. What's next? Well, you go bigger. Way bigger. In section 3, we're going to see how they took these exact same ideas of mathematical harmony and applied them to the entire cosmos. And I mean, you can't overstate how revolutionary this was. They argued that the Earth was a sphere, not flat, because a sphere is the most perfect shape. They believed the planets and stars all moved in perfect circles and that this grand celestial dance created a sound, a kind of heavenly music they called the harmony of the spheres. We couldn't hear it, they said, because we've been hearing it since birth. To them, the cosmos wasn't just empty space. It was a single, ordered, living being. So we've gone from vibrating strings to triangles, all the way out to the entire universe. But they didn't stop there. They took it one final, crucial step: inward. For our fourth section, we'll see how this universal code was also a personal guide for the soul, a mathematical blueprint for how to live a good life. This is so fascinating. For the Pythagoreans, studying mathematics was basically a form of meditation, a sacred act. The idea was if you could understand the perfect order of the cosmos, you could start to bring your own soul into tune with that order. Through a disciplined life and a belief in reincarnation, the end goal was to purify your soul until it was vibrating at the same frequency as the universe itself, to literally get in tune with the cosmos. And they didn't just talk about this stuff, they lived it. They formed a tight-knit community with some very specific and kind of weird rules. They were vegetarians, they lived communally, and they took vows of silence. But then you get these cryptic sayings like, do not stir the fire with a sword, which probably means, don't make an angry person even angrier. And the most famous one, do not eat beans. Why no beans? We're not totally sure. Maybe because they were connected to reincarnation, or, and this is a real theory, maybe just because they didn't want any disruptive noises during silent contemplation. It all shows a life totally dedicated to discipline and symbolism. Okay, let's bring it all home with our final section. Because an idea this powerful doesn't just disappear. The Pythagorean search for a hidden mathematical code to the universe has been echoing through the halls of history ever since. And just look at this legacy. You've got Plato, who was massively influenced, basing his whole cosmology on these mathematical ideas. Fast forward a couple thousand years to the scientific revolution, what were guys like Kepler and Newton doing? They were searching for the mathematical laws of nature. That's a Pythagorean quest. In fact, the most basic assumption of modern science, that the universe is rational and can be understood with math, that's the echo of Pythagoras. Even today, when physicists search for a theory of everything, they're walking in his footsteps. I think this quote just says it all. This was the big shift he represents, moving away from explaining the world with myths about angry gods and monsters, and toward a new kind of truth, a truth found in the silent, perfect, logical world of numbers. So I want to leave you with this thought. If all things are number, and a good life is one of harmony and balance, what's the equation for the life you're living? If you looked at your life through that Pythagorean lens, what would the ratios be? Your ratio of work to play, of giving to taking, of noise to silence. It's a pretty wild thought, isn't it? And it all started with one man who believed he could hear the music of the cosmos.